Over the years, there's been much discussion about marriage laws in every culture. Much is said about child marriage, where children are promised in marriage even before they are teenagers. You've heard of that, right? Then there's the issue of arranged marriages, where even if a couple is grown, adults, the families decide who they should marry. Then in the context of talking about marriage, there's also the issue of the dowry. In South Africa, it was called lobola. It's called different terms in different cultures. Where the couple have to meet this requirement, particularly in most cultures, the groom, the family of the bride decides how much must be paid, whether in cash or in kind, to them so that the groom can have their daughter's hand in marriage. You've heard of that, right? And some of you sitting here and saying, I should have had more daughters. Now, in most cases, in that context of talking about marriage, rightly or wrongly, it is referred to as the sexist practices of cultures, right? The West often points out that people in less developed countries, whether the East or the South, less developed countries, are intrinsically sexist in the way we treat marriage. In the West, ask women pastors about how they are treated, as opposed to how their male counterparts are being treated. And that's true this day. Even if they are ordained now for 50 years in the Lutheran Church, which is celebrating this year 50 years of ordination of women. Ask women in politics and in business about how they are treated, and you'll hear the same. That's throughout the world, east, west, south, north. And this is my favorite. Ask the women's sports teams. The U.S. women's soccer team are world champions. They've been a few times now. And they get less pay than the mediocre men's soccer team of the U.S. As you know that, by the adjectives I've used, you know that it's something that I'm passionate about. But we won't go into that. The Sadducees came to Jesus with a question, and we often want to know, well, at least I want to know, whether it was a question about resurrection or whether it was a question about marriage. Depending on where you're coming from or where you're sitting, you will decide whether it's a question of the resurrection, a question of the marriage, or is it a question of both? It's interesting, the words that the Sadducees use, they say, if a man takes a woman to be his wife. And then when Jesus answered that, he says, the people of this world would marry and are given in marriage. I want to pause here because this is radical. Jesus' response is revolutionary. Jesus' response is subversive. Even scandalous. Jesus' response is countercultural, not for countercultural sake, but for the sake of truth and justice, for the sake of salvation. It is subtle, and we see that throughout Scripture, that Jesus doesn't quote them as saying if a man takes a woman to be his wife. Stay with me, because we're going to get deeper if you think this is shallow. Jesus doesn't say that. He says people of this world. So immediately he's setting himself apart from separating, not only separating, but elevating a man above a woman. He doesn't say, take a woman to be his wife. He says they would marry. If you look at the origin of that word, it's not about taking, it's about uniting. So not one takes the other, they both unite. Jesus is also acknowledging by saying they would marry or be given in marriage in this world and not in the world to come. Because even the young men were given in marriage. You see in the Old Testament narrative, often, and maybe we don't read it this way, we hear that the family or the friends or even the servants are sent to look for a wife for someone, to look for a wife for Isaac's servant. So even the groom doesn't quite have a choice in this. So Jesus is saying, okay, I like the example you took, but really, it's betraying your short-sightedness. It's betraying something that's intrinsically unjust in your society and in your thinking. In Luke, in the book of Luke, the narrative of Luke, the gospel according to Luke, as he recounts it, for one, it said that Luke actually interviewed people to find out, as far as he could, from a narrative, from a verbal narrative. And then he wrote it down. So in the book of Luke, Luke seems to use, and this is accepted across the board, seems to use the lens of justice, the lens of the marginalized. It is in Luke that we hear a lot about the marginalized, about the Samaritans, about women, about those that are sick. His lens is a lens that is not presenting the establishment Jesus, but the Jesus for who he is and how Jesus appeared to ordinary people like you and me, those that were people who were not part of the establishment. It's interesting that Luke is writing this whole incident when Jesus has entered the temple. Jesus is actually in the temple courts, and he's teaching there when the Sadducees come to him. And Luke is just once again looking at it through the lens of an ordinary person. Not someone who was part of the establishment of religion. Remember, Luke himself was a physician, so he was no religious leader as such. It's in Luke that we find the story of the leper. Remember a few weeks ago, we had the story of the 10 lepers that came and how Jesus said, why are you coming to thank me, you mixed race person? Where are the so-called pure race people? Why are they not coming to say thank you? It's in Luke that we see the story of the Samaritan woman at the well. You remember that? We also covered that a few weeks ago. We don't only see it in Luke, we see it in other parts of the Bible. where very subtly, Jesus doesn't go out and teach about how sexist the society is or how racist the society is, but in the context of teaching the truth, Jesus mentions what's wrong with their society. He was countercultural, yet I will go back to this, not for countercultural sake. Remember when I was growing up, I met a lot of people who said I'm nonconformist. Turned out that all the nonconformists, particularly in the 60s and 70s, were conforming to something, right? The hippie look was its own conformist, its own brand of conformists. I know some of you were hippies, so I'm not going to go there. You know, in the context of everyday life, Jesus subtly raised up issues of justice. Even there, not just for justice sake. It's not because he was just a person who was fair. But if you look at the times where Jesus speaks about everyday life, he speaks about it in the context of teaching about a precept that's deep and fundamental in our faith. Resurrection is deep and fundamental in our faith. Every Christian believes in the resurrection. Jesus said, I am the resurrection and the life. Jesus said, if you come to me, I will give you eternal life. You will not die, but you will live eternally. And so it is deep down. It's a fundamental precept. It's fundamental to our doctrine as Christians, as Lutherans. And as he is challenged on that fundamental concept, he still looks at a faulty presupposition in the questioners. And Luke picks that up throughout. Luke his lens is a man after my own heart. Now let me take a break a little. Now some of you are saying he's taken a break from the scripture in any case. So, if Luke was living today, and he heard the Hollywood news that this great movie, Harriet, was released. Any of you heard of the movie, Harriet? It's a new release. Now, if Luke had to go to watch the movie Harriet, this is what he would say, because he has this lens of the marginalized, critical lens that says, I'm not going to listen to the main narrative, I'm going to listen to what's behind it. Now, for those of you that didn't watch it, spoiler alert. Luke will say, well, it seems that the directors, the writers of this movie, Harriet, by the way, Harriet Tubman is considered a hero of the fight against, do you say heroine? A heroine of the fight against slavery. Freeing herself and also advocating for freedom of others. So if Luke is watching it, he'll say, well, the movie itself portrayed the slave owner as a white savior. And he does. That's the spoiler alert. And the movie itself introduces a fictitious character, different from the historical account. A fictitious character of a black man who abuses Harriet. And Luke will say, well, there they go again, portraying a black man as a brute. The only reason I'm saying this is that we have to look at what is actually being said through the words of Jesus as reported by the Gospel of Luke. That to Jesus it was an equal passion to make sure he raises up the injustices in society, the inconsistencies in society, the places where our faith and our life don't mesh. Even while he's teaching something as fundamental as, when you die, when I come again, after life, you will be resurrected and you will be with me. The church has to be a church that's a church that says, as much as and Lutheran Church does this all the time, as much as I am committed to justice and fairness, I am committed to the fundamentals of the faith on which all of those statements of justice are based. If you go to the LCA website, you will see all of the social statements that we have. And the social statements pick up on various inconsistencies in our society. All of them start with, because we believe this, therefore we have to condemn that, or therefore we have to make this statement about that. Because we believe that all people are made in the image of God, as Bishop Tutu said, Imago Dei, which is going back to the original writings, the image of God. Because we believe in that, therefore, racism is wrong. Therefore, sexism is wrong. Therefore, discriminating against people because of their sexual identity is wrong. Therefore, we have to declare that we are a sanctuary church, which we just declared in August. It's not enough for us to just simply say what we believe and repeat our doctrinal statements like we do every Sunday morning when we recite our creed. Take it from Jesus. Let's take a page from the way Jesus lived. The church needs to be wildly justice as much as we are wildly Jesus. The church needs to be ridiculously Jesus, as we should be ridiculously justice. That makes us who we are. That is who Jesus was. And so, brothers and sisters, what happens in everyday life is not peripheral to the fundamentals of our faith. We cannot stand on our doctrines without seeing that in the way we live.